For the Baltimore Ravens going into this season, it seems like it's now or never in terms of them being able to win a Super Bowl. Lamar Jackson is 27 years old, and he probably has about 3 to 4 years left of high level peak performance before we start to see him fall off a little bit. And within these next couple of years, you got to ask yourself, when are the Ravens going to be able to win with Lamar playing at his full capability? They still have the most talented team in the AFC going into this year. They got a stacked offense. You got Zay Flowers going into year 2. You're going to have a healthy Mark Andrews. Your defense is still stacked at every level, every position. Yeah, you have some new faces that are going to be on the offensive line. You're going to be replacing some older players that you lost. But for the most part, this is still one of the most complete teams in the National Football League. And with the addition of Derrick Henry, he could be the missing piece for the Baltimore Ravens being able to get over the hump. Why did they come up short against Kansas City last year? Well, I think the number one reason for that was because they only ran the ball 6 times with their running backs, which is something that I strongly doubt happens when you got that behemoth in the backfield behind Lamar and King Henry. Another thing is that I felt in that conference championship loss, Baltimore was too reliant on Lamar Jackson. Now, we know how good Lamar is, but you got to be balanced, okay? And you don't need to be a dominant rushing team to be able to have success on the ground. You just need to be able to run the football when you want to. And that's what the Ravens are going to be able to do with Derrick Henry. With Derrick Henry, he's going to make defenses readjust the way they defend against Lamar. Because for a while, yeah, we know that the Ravens have always been pretty good when it comes to having decent running back play. But they've never had an RB as talented as what Derrick Henry is. And with him being in the backfield, defenses are going to have to pick their poison. You're either going to game plan to go all in on stopping Lamar, and then you got to get worried about getting killed up the middle of your D by Derrick Henry, or you can key in on trying to stop Derrick Henry, but you have to worry about the speed of Lamar Jackson, breaking contain outside, and then eventually, ruining how you want to run your defenses when it comes to keeping Lamar Jackson contained as a runner. Because the thing that I've heard a lot of defensive coordinators talk about when it comes to defending Lamar Jackson is you don't want this dude to get outside contained or to break outside contained and get along the edges, because that's when you get in trouble. Well, how are you going to stop Lamar from getting outside if you got to worry about trying to stop Derrick Henry from bullying your defense up the middle? Having Derrick Henry just brings a different amount of pressure for opposing defenses that they haven't had in the past when it's just been all Lamar Jackson. You got King Henry and LJ in the same backfield. I don't know what defense you're going to be able to run to be able to slow this offense down when you also have to couple in the ability to throw the football at a really high level as well. Derrick Henry could be the missing piece to what gets Baltimore back into the Super Bowl, something that we haven't seen them in since 2012, when they beat the 49ers and it was the Harbaugh Brother Bowl. It's now or never, Super Bowl or bust, whatever you want to call it for the Baltimore Ravens this year, because if they can't win the Super Bowl, I don't know when they ever will. Derrick Henry is at the peak of age for running backs who end up starting to fall off right after. He's flat at 30. After this season, at 31, we probably start to see a big amount of a regression. And it was similar to when the Ravens had Mark Ingram, which was when Lamar Jackson was coming into year 2, and he won MVP that year. We saw how big of an impact Mark Ingram had on Lamar Jackson as an overall player. When you have a dynamic running back behind LJ, it makes him even more harder to defend. So I'm looking at this move by Baltimore, bringing in Derrick Henry, as another reason to believe that they're going all in on trying to win the championship this year. You got to strike while the iron's hot. Lamar Jackson still has a couple of years remaining on his deal before he's up for another big time extension. And he only has a few years left of high level QB play before he starts to regress. If you're Baltimore, your window to win the Super Bowl is either this year or the following season, depending on if Derrick Henry can still give you high caliber running back play, which I think is fair to say that this season is probably the last we're going to see of King Henry actually living up to that name before we start to see some big regression and you start to say, okay, he needs to hang it up. If Baltimore can't win it this year, I strongly am going to question if Lamar's ever going to be able to win it. Todd Monken is returning for year 2 as the Ravens offensive coordinator. Lamar Jackson is going to be able to have some more familiarity. Todd Monken is going to be able to open things up a lot more. You know, last year was just all about finding out the way to maximize Lamar Jackson's strengths and finding a way to get him comfortable in the new offense, and the new offense that really was new to Baltimore. Baltimore was never really throwing the football as what they were at that high of a level last season and years past, and they never were known as a team that came off as pass heavy. And even though they were throwing the football at a high rate with a lot of success, they still led the NFL in rushing yards per game last year, or they at least were top 3 in that department. So you still have to get back to what the fundamentals are of your offense, which is running the football, being physical up front. But with Todd Monken having another added year with Lamar, you definitely can expect some more wrinkles out of this offense that we didn't see in 2023. It's a Super Bowl or bust kind of year for the Baltimore Ravens. And it kind of, in my opinion, is that every single year when you get Lamar Jackson fully healthy come playoff time, Lamar Jackson has the second best win-loss record in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes. So when this dude is healthy, the Ravens are always in contention to not just get the 1 seed in the AFC, but to win a championship as long as you can keep him fully healthy. If Lamar Jackson doesn't suffer any setbacks this season, the Ravens are going to be there along with Kansas City, Buffalo, and whoever else to hoist that Lombardi trophy. But can they get over the hump if they have to play a Patrick Mahomes again? I believe that they can. It really just comes down to being able to execute in big moments in the fourth quarter if you're Lamar Jackson, and not forgetting to run the damn football if you're Todd Monken.